let's take a look at all the things that you need to consider when planning your week ahead. Number one, before you do anything, block out time for you to do your most productive thing. Number two, examine all the objectives and all the activities that are required under each one of the hats that you wear as a sales leader or business owner. Number three, you're going to review last week for any follow-ups and outstanding issues that need to be done this week. Number four, you're going to take a preview of next week. So this is where we get future focused, and we're looking at all the activities that are required for next week, the week after, possibly the rest of the month. And depending on your circumstances and your planning ability, you might even take a look at next month, and maybe even in some cases, even the month after that, and setting activities for that too. Number five was to take a look at all your meetings and appointments that you have for next week. Is there any planning required for those meetings? The sixth area that we looked at was we looked at people and relationships, and we looked at that through the context of each of the various different hats that you wear, as well as your manager or your boss, your team, your direct reports, your customers, your suppliers, your support center or your head office, any project teams that you might be on. And finally, we looked at yourself and all the activities and relationships that are connected with you personally. By the way, if you go to your tools and resources section of this website, you'll see a reference list called the 90-minute Golden Time Planning Session Method. So open that up and maybe even print it off and use it as a handy tool when it comes to you doing your weekly planning session. So now would be a good time to press pause and really invest the time and the attention that it's going to take using this all-inclusive and powerful planning method. And when we come back, we'll take a look at, so now that you've got this huge big to-do list, what do we do and how do we prioritize it and how do we make it happen? So go ahead, press pause, and do this exercise now. Welcome back. How did that go? Pretty intense, isn't it? There's a lot of ground to cover. So if you've done this exercise, just like I've laid out, you've got one seriously long to-do list in front of you. Now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to apply what is commonly known as the 4 Ds to those activities. So what are the 4 Ds? Well, the first D is to do it. The second D is to defer it or delay it. Third D is delegate it. And finally, the fourth D is to dump it. So the do-its are pretty self-explanatory. These are the ones that you yourself have elected to do. Delay it. Find another time when you're going to do that activity. So put it in your diary for 3 weeks' time, 4 months' time, wherever it is, but defer it for some other time. Let me just make a quick point here about deferring. When it comes to deferring, you must set aside time to do it. And the reason why you don't just kind of leave it off your list is because these are the things that keep you up at night. It's a bit like when you open up too many windows in your computer, eventually the computer just seizes. It just can't process. There's just too many windows open. So in order to get your computer functioning again, you have to go and close down all these windows. And it's the same thing when it comes to all the issues that you defer. The more issues you defer without finding a home for them, without putting them in a place where they can resurface by design, they tend to sit in your head. And these are the things that keep you up at night. These are the issues that often cause stress. All right, so the third D then was to delegate it. Now, this is not a session on delegation.
However, you may want to ask yourself the following questions when thinking about delegating. Can this job be done by someone who is a lower cost per hour than you? Even if it's not to the same standard of work, how important is it, and can it be done by someone else who's not as expensive as you are? Is there someone else that you can outsource this task to who will do the job even better than you? Okay, the third question you have to ask is there someone who is looking for additional responsibility and looking to grow their role? Would they like an opportunity to do this particular task? Can you do the job and at the same time include someone else, and thereby killing two birds with one stone and actually training them on the job so that they can do that particular task in the future? And finally, the fifth one, if you are going to delegate the job, have you decided on your expectations or standards of work quality that you expect or that you require for that particular task?
Finally, we get to the D4, which is to dump it. Folks, if it's been on your list for so long, it just keeps staying on there, but like a bad habit. Get rid of it. Dump it. Get it off your list. If it's that important, it'll come back onto your list. But for the moment, get rid of it. Clear it. It'll free up your headspace. It'll free up your time. And you'll be able to function so much better.
So now I want you to go through your to-do list. And I want you to write down next to your list either a D1 for do, a D2 for defer, a D3 for delegate, and a D4 for dump. Obviously, if it's a dump, just cross it off your list. Okay. If it's a defer, take it and put it somewhere else. If it's a do, then we're going to talk about what to do about that now. And if it's a delegate, put a name next to that task as to whom you're going to delegate that task to. So press pause and do this now. You're back? Great. So for those activities that you've decided that you must do, you now need to prioritize that list using either the ABC method of prioritization or any other prioritization method that you prefer.
So using the ABC method, the A being
crucial, B being important, C being of little value, and D being of no value.
So if you've never used the ABC prioritization method before, you're literally going to go through all the activities that you've chosen to do, not the ones you've chosen to delegate. This is the list that you are going to have to get through. And so you're going to mark each activity on your list with either an A, a B, a C, or a D.
And you might find you've got half a dozen A's, in which case you then go A1, A2, A3, A4.
Ranking each one of them by way of priority.
So you've now divided up your list of tasks that you have to do into A's, B's, C's, and D's.
So once again, pause this video right now
and go through your list and prioritize using whatever prioritization tool you prefer. So there it is. That's the recipe. That's the weekly process that I want you to undertake during your golden 90-minute planning process. As I mentioned earlier, you can go to your resource section and print off a copy of this recipe and keep it next to you during your next planning session and everyone after that until you've got the process down pat. Now here's a suggestion for you. As I mentioned in an earlier video when we discussed art versus science,
and so the suggestion is
that you please implement this methodology as I've laid it out for you for at least the first month. So that's 4.33 sessions, right? And only then feel free to add in and apply your own creativity to the process to make it work for you. But I want you to start with the science first. Recipe before creativity. So in summary then, the 5 exercises that you need to complete from the session are, if you haven't done them already. Number 1, you need to determine your currently hourly rate, and your desired hourly rate. Then you need to determine how many productive hours you currently work and decide on how many you intend to work for the next week. And then you're going to increase that time invested here each and every week. Second one, I want you to block out an hour to get real experience of working in that productive time space. Set your alarm for a complete, non-interrupted hour and only work on increasing profitable sales revenue generation from your sales team, nothing else. Number 3, I want you to watch that YouTube clip in your tools and resources section, which demonstrates how to make sure that you stay working in the most productive time space by putting first things first. Number 4, I want you to compile a list of the 6 or 7 hats that you wear at work, writing up a bullet point description of each, including all the various responsibilities. And you can also opt for setting SMART goals for each of your hats, and you'll find this worksheet in the tools and resources section. Number 5, I want you to set aside 90 uninterrupted minutes of golden planning time for the next 90 days. So you're looking at your diary and you're locking out 90 minutes once a week for the next 90 days. And then I want you to follow the golden time planning session methodology for at least 1 full month. Okay, so before you shut shop and rush off to go and do that exercise, let me tell you what you can expect in the next activity module. The next activity module, we're going to be looking at how do we create an above-the-line team culture. This is a very powerful session, and we're going to give you the tools and we're going to give you the methodologies to implement that with your sales team. So look forward to seeing you in the next activity module. By the way, let me ask you a question. Have you scheduled time in your diary to do the next session if you're not going to get back to it anytime soon? Have you scheduled time in your diary? Because you and I both know that if it's not scheduled in your diary, there's a very good chance with everything else you've got going on, this might fall through the cracks. So quickly make a note in your diary, log some time in your diary. You'll need a good hour for yourself to go through that activity module. So plan it as a rock in your diary and it'll get done. Faso